The rich information is in this chapter. Of course, first of all, it tells us when we enter a courtroom, we have certain schema. Just imagine you are in the Supreme Court. When you enter the Supreme Court, you can imagine there's a complex genre which contains a number of key events formed from sequential speech acts. In other words, these events include, number one, jury selection. Who should form a jury to help the judge decide on the case? Should we have a lot of black people, a lot of women, a lot of Chinese, a lot of Mongolians? Who should we pick to serve in the jury? Selection of jury, that's number one, because they are the ones who are going to make the decision along with the judge in the U.S. courtroom. Number two, the indictment, okay? You are going to announce what this case is all about, followed by opening address. Now, the lawyer of two sides are going to present the case from their perspectives. So the opening remarks also paint the defendant or the plaintiff in a different picture, depending on how the lawyer, introduces the person he represents. Okay, that's the opening address. Prosecution and defense evidence. Okay, now you can see they are going to fight back and forth. Back and forth. It's an adversarial system. It's confrontation. It's a very ugly place. It's a very ugly place you don't want to be in. And then they have closing speeches. Again, during the closing speeches, the lawyers also are going to present in a narrative style that will also influence your decision. But the judge will always remind you, ignore the opening statements and the closing statements. Just focus on the prosecution and defense evidence, because your decision shouldn't be based on the opening and the closing when the lawyers are making narratives, telling stories, or trying to be persuasive. All right? However, people are persuasive. People can be easily persuaded, especially when people tell you stories. You're attracted to the stories. That's why you pay attention to the opening statements and the closing statements a lot. And finally, summing up and deliberation, judgment, and sentencing. So these are sequential speech acts in a courtroom, okay? You need to have this kind of schema, first of all. And this is the structure you need to pay attention to. Of course, at the very beginning, you are called in by the court officer or the usher. If you are a witness, you are called in. And you are swearing in with court officer or usher, right? In American courtroom. You swear by the Bible, you swear in. You say, I will speak the truth, nothing but the truth. Then you are examined by friendly counsel first. Then cross-examination by opposing counsel. So the first encounter is friendly examination. So you feel good. And then the opponent is going to question you. That's opposing counsel. Okay, then that's no longer friendly. It's very unfriendly. So after several times, finally dismissal by judge. This is only the structure of a Supreme Court. Now, this chapter tells us in courtroom conversations, it is adversarial system of trials. Adversarial, confrontational, fight with each other. It's ugly, right? It's a lose-lose situation. Look at this. It's a lose-lose situation when you finally go to court. That's why, the court is always the last resort. You don't want to go to court. You want to settle before the last resort. Don't go there unless it's absolutely necessary. It's not a system of justice. It's really an adversarial system of trials. Okay, you will be hurt in a situation like this, when people cross-examine you, in a very vicious way to try to attack you and try to paint you in an ugly picture, to put you, as if you were a liar. Your testimony, your statement is not reliable. Your credibility is questionable. Okay? Whether you're a witness or whatever you are, if you are put in that situation to be questioned, be careful. It's ugly. It's not friendly. All right? Now, the thing is, we have to construct master narratives for, say, CeCe McDonald, right? Or for that victim. Now, there are two sides. When you construct master narrative, just like, when we construct this picture, this picture is real. It's really, okay, I'm not going to say too much about this picture. This is a real person who is transforming into a man. But he keeps, I can't even use English pronoun, but 她 used her, can't use English pronoun. But, okay, she kept her uterus. So she's bearing a child at this moment, even though she's in the process of transforming into a man. Okay? So now if this person committed some kind of crimes, how do we picture her? Okay? Do you know what I'm saying? How do we picture a person like this? Is she normal or is she deviant? Is she abnormal? All right? Now, it says, prosecution and defense cases work within such master narratives, but also work to counter them. So we have to construct master narratives to introduce this person, and also another counter narrative to knock this person down. Okay? You have one version to build up a normal person. You have another narrative to knock this person out completely. Okay? Depending on how you picture this person in the master narrative, that will influence the judge and the jury to decide whether she committed a crime, whether this is self-defense or murder, depending on how you picture her in the master narrative. And if you're a lawyer working against this person, and you can also paint her as a very ugly person, abnormal. Look at this. You can say she's very abnormal. Okay, same thing. This is O.J. Simpson's case. A black man with a beautiful white wife. Okay? He killed her. But then somehow he got away. So now the problem is, when we have a case like this, when the judge has to decide whether he's guilty or not, it depends on how you picture these people. We have some kind of prejudice triggers. You can trigger this man as, African American wife beater. He can be an African American wife beater, very abusive, aggressive. Look at his face, look at the skin, this color. You can say everything bad about him. He's a wife beater. That's one way to trigger prejudice against him. But on the other hand, you can also paint this woman in the ugly picture. You can say, oh, this woman is a young, white, promiscuous woman. Promiscuous. In other words, she had sex with various men. She's easy, okay? She's promiscuous. In other words, he might be upset with her because she is not faithful. She's promiscuous. She deserves it. she deserves to be killed. See, it depends on how you picture these people. All right? So here it says, successfully triggering the African American wife beater script in relation to the defendant might lead to a decision to convict him. Whereas triggering the young, white, promiscuous woman script in relation to the victim, Nicole Brown Simpson, could produce an acquittal. If she were a promiscuous woman, then acquit him. He's not guilty. She deserved it. Okay? So, here it says, however, overshadowing both scripts was the master narrative of the police as institutionally racist. So when you downplay his race by the police, then the community, the society says, you're a racist. You didn't pay attention to the fact that he's a black, okay? And the police may be white. So you downplay the fact that he's a black. This is also, this is racist, okay? So that's also prejudice trigger. If you downplay his blackness, then it's racism. Okay, so for this reason, it took weeks to select the jury. Who's going to be in the jury? With the prosecution wanting a majority of women and the defense a majority of blacks. So those who want to fight against him choose a lot of women to be in the jury. Those who want to fight her choose a lot of blacks. Black versus white. So that's a war between black and white. Now, what counts as evidence? Here it says the judge has to remind the jury, pay no attention to the opening statement and the closing statement. Just pay attention to the cross-examination. That's evidence, okay? But how can we do that? It's impossible. So here we have to differentiate. The judge wants us to differentiate between narrativity, which is considered fiction, storytelling, versus facts. So what's facts? What's story? What's real? What's not real? Sometimes it's not as clear-cut as we thought it could be. Now, here are two examples of the lawyers. One represents the prosecution, the other represents the defense. In the case of Shipman trial, the doctor who murdered several patients. Now, the prosecution lawyer, of course, the prosecution lawyer would paint this person as someone who did not, who is not honest, who has no honesty, no integrity, who breached the trust and killed 15 patients. Okay, that's the prosecution lawyer's introduction to this doctor. On the other hand, the defense lawyer painted him in a rosy picture. He said, oh, Dr. Harold Shipman. He even said, Harold Shipman, a doctor, a general medical practitioner. So she mentioned several things about his credential, his social status, his education, and so forth. And Miss Davis also said, when Dr. Shipman changed his location, his patients followed him. So that shows he's such a caring doctor. His patients loved him. So he was painted as a very caring person. And then we have friendly questioning. So you can see the answer is always, that's correct, yes, I did. These are so-called friendly questioning. The lawyer doesn't give you a hard time. You just confirm information, and you say yes, yes. That's very friendly. On the other hand, unfriendly questioning, you will see, the answer is no. Answer, let me see. Did I what? I'm sorry. Questioning your statement. No. And I'm informed that it was a Saturday. Just added more information. This is unfriendly questioning. And look at the answer. Look at the answer. What is right? What is right? I'm sorry. No, I didn't. I'm sorry. Again, no. See? So this shows this type of questioning is unfriendly because the answer is always, no, I didn't do it. What did you say? I'm sorry. Say it again. All right. Next, this is another strategy in the courtroom. You try to discredit your witness as unreliable. So you try to phrase those questions to show that the witness really wasn't sure, wasn't clear, or it was very fuzzy in his memory. He's really unreliable. Don't depend on this witness's statement. He didn't know what he's saying. You can also paint somebody in a picture like that. Okay, and finally, that's another example. When a woman, a girl who was raped and was questioned in a courtroom, the questioning can also be very abusive. Okay, the so-called doubly abused by hostile questioning, the so-called hurt twice, 二次伤害, right? A woman can be hurt twice, hurt badly when she was questioned the process that she was being raped. And as a result, the woman can use a strategy of denial. And where was your mother? I don't know. You do not know? But she was in the house when you went to bed, was she not? I think so. Yes, sorry, you think so? Yes. Can you not remember? Yes. Where would she have been if she was not in the house? I don't know. Okay, so this is a discourse of denial. And then we can also see, in this case, it's also a woman who was raped. But then the destructive cross-examination creates the master narrative of a promiscuous, who has sex with all kinds of men, a promiscuous young woman looking for adventure rather than a narrative of victimhood. So we can repaint a woman, a victim, as someone who just sought some opportunities to hang out with men, to have opportunities to have sex with other men. So she actually was looking for it. She's promiscuous.